And welcome to this Monday edition of Newsmax Now. It's great to have everybody with us. Hope you all had a great weekend. Pope Francis arrives in the U.S. tomorrow to celebrate Mass with America and talk directly to congressional lawmakers. We'll also talk about Scott Walker, who is reportedly dropping out of the race. His press conference ran scheduled for about an hour from now. Of course, folks can check out Newsmax.com for the latest on that story.
But first, let's talk about Ben Carson. The doctor turned GOP presidential candidate is receiving a lot of attention over his recent comments about the prospect of a Muslim president, so much so, the Senate Minority Leader, Harry Reid, he wants Republicans to publicly denounce Carson's remarks when asked, do you believe Islam is consistent with the Constitution? Carson had this to say.
No, I don't. I do not. I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
And Carson isn't backing down from those comments. In fact, he further went on to say he believes the Muslim faith is inconsistent with American principles. He now faces intense backlash for those remarks, and that includes harsh words from the Council of American Islamic Relations. CARE members are now calling on Carson to withdraw from the presidential race.
Not long ago, some people thought that a Catholic cannot be a president, an African American cannot be a president. They were wrong then, and they are wrong now. And that's why we say Mr. Ben Carson is wrong today to assume and say that American Muslim cannot be president of the United States. His views are inconsistent with the United States Constitution.
CARE would also like Carson to apologize, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. In a statement released after his interview, the spokesman says Carson strongly believes in the constitutional guarantee of religious freedom, but he also doesn't think the American people are ready to accept a Muslim as a president.
Well, earlier today, we spoke with Armstrong Williams, Dr. Carson's business manager, confidant. He's also a conservative radio host. Armstrong Williams says Carson needs no defense for his comments. Armstrong Williams, thanks for coming by today. Of course, Dr. Ben Carson's business manager. You also give him a lot of advice on a number of areas, including the campaign. Talk to us about the comments and what's been made about what Dr. Ben Carson said, essentially saying that a Muslim cannot be president of these United States.
He did not say a Muslim cannot be president of the United States.
He believes that.
No. He said he, in exercising his free will and his rights as an American, would not advocate a Muslim becoming president of these United States.
As a private citizen, that's one thing. But when you're running for president, you're required to take an oath to uphold the Constitution. And a lot of folks would say in the Constitution there's Article 6, which says there's no religious test to hold any office in this country. You and I both know that any time somebody runs for Senate or Congress or the presidency, there is a religious test.
Article 6 of the Constitution, like all articles of the Constitution, refers to the government. Amendments 1 through 10 refers to the individual and our Bill of Rights, and our rights for expressing what we believe, unlike most places in the world. And Dr. Carson was only expressing his right in terms of what he would vote for and not vote for in terms of whom should be at the helm of running this country. And he doesn't feel, given the timing and where we are and what's going on in the world, that he would advocate a Muslim being president of the United States.
Is there any concern about potential fallout from this? Let's say Ben Carson does win the nomination. Some people would use this against him in a general election, saying he is not inclusive enough.
You know, there's always a price when you tell the truth and what you believe. Dr. Carson was asked the question by Chuck Todd on Meet the Press, as he asked all candidates, whether or not he would advocate, would he would vote for a Muslim as president, could he see a Muslim in the White House? And Dr. Carson, like many people, when you think about Sharia law, when you think about the fact that the Quran and Islam's belief is in direct contradiction with our Constitution, when you think about how they treat women, their stance and willing to hang and homosexuals, when you think about how it treats people in its own faith, the fact that Americans or Jews could not go to the Middle East, any place in the Middle East, and establish a church or a synagogue and how you remember Daniel Pearl, how he was beheaded,
of course.
and remember how we still have the Washington Post reporter in the Iranian jail. You look at what happened right at Fort Hood, where someone in the name of his faith, who was Muslim, killed innocent people on our military base. We see this. And there's something about
recently in Chattanooga.
There's something very confusing about Islam and what it represents.
What is the remedy here? Because, I mean, certainly there are moderate Muslims in this country who don't agree with those types of things, don't agree with what the Dal Hassan did or what the Chattanooga shooter did.
You know, it's a funny thing that you say that. I speak as someone who have incredible relationships on all fronts, and especially friends of the Muslim faith. And what is fascinating is that if you move beyond the surface to have real conversations about what happens in the world, I am amazed at how sympathetic they are to it. It shocks me.
How sympathetic the quote-unquote moderates are to the extreme.
Yes, yes. It's very bothersome. And you know what? I never really thought about it until Dr. Carson, I was listening, and he said he would not advocate. And I said, wow, he speaks for me.
You think he speaks for a majority of this country when he makes those comments?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Armstrong Williams, I'm sure there'll be more to come on this. We look forward to checking back in with you, and it's always great to catch up with you. We'll talk about a number of other things down the road as well.
Thank you.